The question whether yoga is Hinduism in disguise is a very simple question to answer, but at the same time it's very tricky too. So, before we attempt to answer this question whether yoga is Hinduism in disguise, let us try and get a little bit of historical perspective about what we call as Hinduism today. Koham, kutoham, meaning who am I and where did I come from, and what is the true nature of all this beautiful nature that surrounds me. Is there a creative force or God, if you will, for myself as well as this wonderful creation around me? These are the questions that have been haunting the mankind ever since the beginning of time, since the beginning of civilization. Now, there were some who looked outwards for answers to these deep questions, these profound questions, and there were some who looked inwards through the depths of meditation for answers to all these wonderful questions. These people came up with such wonderful principles as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, meaning this entire creation is permeated by a very wonderful divine energy. They called it Brahman, and they said this Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, meaning it's the final truth, it's the ultimate truth, it is pure knowledge and it is infinite, it is endless. Ishavasyamidam Sarvam, meaning this entire creation is permeated by Ishvara, by this divine energy. And they also said Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti, meaning the truth is only one, but the knowers of the truth describe it in different ways, in different words. Such principles, such wonderful truths were compiled into what was called as Veda in ancient times. The word Veda in Sanskrit means that which is to be known. Even though originally Veda was only one and all the principles taught in the Veda were accepted by practically everyone, eventually as time has passed, we have seen the birth and the growth of several different schools of philosophy. The schools of philosophy which accepted the principles of Veda in their entirety are called Astika Darshanas, and those schools of philosophy which do not accept the authority of Vedas or the teachings of Vedas either entirely or partly are called Nastika Darshanas. The word Darshana in Sanskrit means a vision, meaning a vision of truth. We can call it like a school of philosophy. Let us look at some of these Nastika Darshanas first. One of the most popular Nastika Darshanas in those days was a school of philosophy called Charvaka. So, the Charvaka philosophy answers the eternal questions such as what is the nature of consciousness, meaning who am I, and what is this nature if there is a God, in following words. It says, I am here for whatever reason, and this nature is also around me. As far as God or soul or what happens after death is considered, we do not know the answers to those things. There is no way we can demonstrate if there is a soul, if there is a God, if there is life after death, if there is a heaven and a hell and all these things. So, why break our heads about it? As long as I am here, I am just going to make sure that I am happy and I take good care of myself and my family, even if it has to be at times at the expense of someone else. So, this is the Charvaka philosophy, and it is straightforward. Another ancient philosophy which is considered as Nastika philosophy is a great philosophy called Buddhism. Now, a lot of people think that Buddhism was propounded by a personality by the name Gautama Buddha, who existed a few thousand years ago. Now, but the important thing to note is that Buddhism as a philosophy has existed since very ancient times. In fact, Buddhistic philosophy is almost as old as the Vedic philosophy. In a lot of respects, Buddhistic philosophy doesn't quite agree with the Vedic philosophy, especially in matters such as if there is a soul, what is the nature of consciousness, and if there is a God, if there is a heaven and hell, etc. But the Vedic rishis considered Buddhistic philosophy also as a valuable philosophy, as a very valuable tool in terms of the spiritual journey of man. Therefore, along with all the Vedic philosophies, they preserved the Buddhistic philosophy also. There is another Nastika Darshana which is called Jainism. And moving on from Nastika philosophies to Astika philosophies, which accept the teachings of Veda, the oldest school of philosophy is a philosophy called Sankhya. The Sankhya philosophy is said to be propounded by a great rishi of ancient times by the name Kapila. Now, Sankhya philosophy explains the answers to questions such as who am I, what is my nature, what is the nature of the creation and God in a very methodical, very logical and sequential order. It explains man as essentially of consciousness. The Sanskrit word for man is Purusha, which is consciousness, absolute consciousness. Now, the nature is considered as what is called Prakriti or Pradhana according to Sankhya philosophy. And because of the interaction between Prakriti and Purusha, what we are calling as the universe or the manifest creation emerges in a particular order, in a very sequential and logical order. So, in all these things, after explaining all this, Kapila asks a question that the entire creation and the what we call as life, life experience, etc., is explained by the interaction between Prakriti and Purusha. So, he asks a question, where is the need for God? What is the role of God? Therefore, this philosophy is considered as Nirishvara Sankhya, meaning something that does not propound the existence of any particular God. Now, Yoga philosophy, which is also a system of philosophy, comes along and adds the concept of God to Nirishvara Sankhya. Therefore, Yoga philosophy in ancient times used to be called as Seshvara Sankhya. That means a Sankhya philosophy with the existence of God, with a God called Ishvara. Now, Ishvara or God, according to Yoga philosophy, is a very generic term. So, if I believe in, for example, a God with an elephant's head, that could be my Ishvara. If I believe in a God with, let us say, a monkey's face, that could be my Ishvara. If I believe in a God called Father in heaven, that could be my Ishvara. Now, just for the sake of understanding the differences between these different schools of philosophies, let us look at another school of philosophy which is called Vedanta. Vedanta says that there is a God, there is a divine presence in the entire creation, and not only that, Vedanta boldly goes on to assert that Aham Brahmasmi, meaning I am Brahman, I am divine. Tattvamasi, you are also divine, and Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All this entire creation that we are seeing is nothing but Brahman manifested in a different format. So, like this, in ancient times we had these different philosophical systems. In any of these texts, it is noteworthy that we do not find a word such as Hinduism. Hinduism is not to be found in any of these ancient texts at all.